Hello, everyone. This is Pamela Topchian, your host for Holistic Connections, Conversations with Holistic Practitioners. And this guest today is my first one that is on for a second time. And I'm so excited for this. So I will let you introduce yourself and share what you do in the holistic healing world, please.
I'm honored to be the first
Yeah.
one that you have had back for a second time. I didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so what I do is I call myself an intuitive counselor, spiritual counselor, and coach and all of the different things because the what I work with is mostly aromatherapy and astrology, but I integrate all of these different tools in order to help people understand who they are, accept who they are, and figure out where the challenges in their life and shift those things in order to kind of live their best path. I mean, I do. I have people buy one oil or,
Right.
get a little mini reading or something, and I never hear from again. And that's well, actually, I'll hear from them in 3 years, and like they'll be
Right.
like, "You changed my life," and I'm like, "Oh,
It
okay."
would have been
And I
nice to
don't
know
always
that closer to the time, but yeah. Right, right.
Right.
I
I don't want to like negate whatever anybody does. Whatever you're drawn to is
right.
fantastic and what you need on your path right now. And I very firmly believe that. But what I do is really deep shadow work. And things come up, and people will have like dark nights of the souls after doing work with me and then
Yeah.
rise up out of that. And I work a lot with the energy of the divine feminine, which
Yeah.
again, we could do another whole thing on how I do that. And I appreciate being able to delve into that more because
Yeah.
that's definitely the oil side of my work. The feminine is not gendered. It's for everybody. I always put the disclaimer, when I say something about the divine feminine or the goddess, this is for all genders. But if I was
Right.
talking about a god, I wouldn't have to say that. No, people would recognize that. And I'm like,
Right.
that's the exact reason I have to say it. Because in order to find that balance, fluidity between masculine and feminine, we need to tune in and raise the feminine and be more in tune with that. And it is part of my teachings on Mary Magdalene. I embrace all genders.
Yeah.
I love all genders. I'm a proxy for the goddess. I'm,
Mm-hmm.
and that's my work here. And I feel comfortable in that. I know that's where I'm supposed to be. So if somebody was out of
Yeah.
balance with their masculine and feminine, if a reader or really somebody who's really intuitive, or you always want to kind of do a self check
Just sort of an assessment. Yeah. Yeah.
self check
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and be like, is this true for me, and
Yeah.
what exactly does that mean for me? And so people have different reasons for that. It's always about being yourself. We need pillars in the
Yeah.
community of feminine because there's a lack of feminine. Even strong women often are praised for their masculine qualities, for their um whatever it is,
Assertiveness and yeah,
assertiveness,
boundaries and
structuredness, and not that we can't be assertive, and I think that's important,
yeah.
but it's the and strong and warriors, the feminine are warriors too, but they do it from a different place.
Yeah.
It's from a different place. It's not that structured linear. I like to think that linear versus fluidity is the big
Yeah.
difference there. And you think about even if you're a housewife,
Mm-hmm.
you're which I have been. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Me too.
so it's again, it's not saying oh it's like low. It's just saying a
Right.
housewife who's occupying the most traditional feminine role
Right. Right.
is is appreciated when they are well organized, when they are managing everybody's time, and so those are all still masculine
Yeah.
qualities. Yeah. Anyway, so I did
Yeah.
want to add that
Yeah, I
even.
appreciate that. So last time you were here, we talked a little bit about astrology mostly. We talked a little bit about Chiron. We did talk a little bit about the divine feminine energy in that. And we talked a little bit about essential oils. But we really today we're here, we want to talk about anointing, aromatherapy, and especially when it comes to Mary Magdalene. So, is it fair to say that you don't have to be a religious person to work with the energy of Mary Magdalene, or
Yeah,
what would you say
absolutely.
to
It's
that?
the same thing as working with the energy of, I don't know, Venus or Athena, Nana, any the Isis, any feminine energy. I see I'm only
Yeah.
listing feminine, masculine too. Energies there, and it depends on how you approach it. They can be symbols,
Mm-hmm.
or they can be ascended masters who are here to guide us. Either way, I obviously tend to lean towards the ascended masters who are here to guide us, but the language I meet people where they are. So I'm like, yeah,
Right.
just use it as a symbol, use it as an inspiration. But her religious story,
Yeah.
her mythology, just like Greek mythology or
Mm-hmm.
Egyptian mythology, is part of how we tune into that archetype. So not
Yeah.
being afraid of Christian mythology.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that happens a lot. I think people who are really more tuned into holistic practices would describe themselves as more spiritual and not as religious. Not everybody for sure, but just in general, generally speaking. So I could really imagine people shying away from or pushing away these figures, these gods, these goddesses, these ascended masters, all of these types of, you had, what did you call them, multidimensional beings last time. So I can imagine that people would shy away from that right away and like, oh, I'm not religious, so this doesn't have to do with me. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there that you don't have to
Right.
have any kind of religious background or have any kind of religious belief or be associated with any religious systems, that you can still work with the energy or gain something from, Mary Magdalene and some of these
Yeah.
others. But so we are talking today. I don't know that we mentioned it yet. So talk a little bit about what is happening on July 22nd.
Can I add one thing to that?
Absolutely.
Okay. A lot of people who feel that way, a lot of
Hmm.
people who are pulled away from or repelled by but Christian
Yeah,
religious figures. People are drawn to Hindu religious figures and
right.
don't have a problem with that because and there's cultural appropriation and stuff. So part of the reason I choose Christian mythology is because I'm a white European woman.
Hmm.
And so that's my heritage.
Right.
I work with gods of other cultures,
Hmm.
but I don't do it in the same way because I feel like that's not my place.
Right.
And so part of that problem is it's a double-edged sword talking about fluidity,
Yeah.
is that a lot of people experience religious trauma from the
Right.
Christian church specifically, and that's the
Yeah.
root of why they don't want to work with Christian figures. But that's generally where that comes from when I experience it, and it's all
Yeah.
real. It's not like that.
Absolutely.
That's all valid.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah.
Wouldn't
So
you think that working with some of these, what you would consider typically religious figures, couldn't they help to heal some of that religious trauma?
100%,
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I think that's really good for people to know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you develop your own relationship rather than it
Yeah.
being dictated by the church.
Yeah. I love that. I love that, just that idea of that you can have your own relationship with any of these figures, any of these
Yes,
gods and goddesses and saints and
right.
whatever words you want to use, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Let's talk about July 22nd.
July 22nd is the feast day of Mary Magdalene. It has been officially for only about 10 years.
Mm,
It had been celebrated on that day
really?
for a long time, but it was Pope Francis who made it official. And
Oh, I see.
and it was actually and it was actually the year that I held my first Magdalene
Oh,
Day like ceremony or event. Let's say
nice.
event because they're always a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it was not official, and it was when I really stepped into my relationship with her. And so one of the things that I like to talk about, I mean, she's one of my guides. I call her my career counselor
Mm-hmm.
because of her work with anointing. And so what I want to say is there's a lot of Mary Magdalene is very popular. A lot of people use her name, and tell her story.
Yeah.
I always say I am not here to retell her story. Enough
Yeah.
people have twisted it
Mm-hmm.
in order to achieve their own needs or their own
Yeah.
goals or
Their own
and
agenda,
I'm not
sort
here
of.
to
Yeah.
do that. Their own agenda. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a yes, kind of agenda behind it. With the way I have a relationship with her, I share that. I share
Yeah.
my relationship with her and what I've learned from her rather than trying to retell her story.
Yeah.
So not with that disclaimer, I'm going to throw in a bunch of parts of her story that have meant the most to me
Okay.
and that I have drawn inspiration from. So
Great.
we see in the Bible that she anoints Yeshua, and that's a whole other conversation. Well, I might get into that about that. Like their relationship is to me, it's two ascended beings that connect, in the earth to do something bigger. Like people get really caught up in like the sex magic and the love story, and I'm like, well, of course there was deep love there, but they were on a mission and they were doing it together. That's how I look at that. And so I
Mm-hmm.
don't care. I don't love story. Spiritual beings, we are occupying a physical body and we want to enjoy our physical body. And we want to enjoy our physical body with people who understand who we are.
Yeah.
And so, of course, they're going to have some sort of physical relationship
Mm-hmm.
because they get it. And they get that that is one of the um, gifts of having a human
Having a
body,
physical body. Right. Right.
having a physical body, which you don't get to do in other dimensions.
Part of the human experience. Yeah.
It's part of the human experience and and it comes from a place of the kind of universal language of love.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, of course. But as part of her mission, she was the anointer. She was what is sometimes referred to as a myrrh bearer.
Mm.
There will be parts of her story there will be people who tell her story as she was a priestess of Isis. And they both were trained through that, both Yesua but that's again, whole,
Right.
whole other story. The thing but that's where the anointing powers come from, is being trained in that.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the Bible, we see her anointing his feet and we see her
Mm-hmm.
anointing him after he dies. And so it's that power of anointing, and essential oils are made through a process of it's an alchemic process of
Yeah.
fire, or of all the elements of fire, earth,
Mm-hmm.
air, and water, in order to create an essential oil. So they help us bridge the gap. They help us tune into the higher dimensions. They help
Yeah.
us kind of solidify who we are, ground who we are in this
Yeah.
physical world. And so her anointing him, and it's also an act of love, it's an act of
Right.
devotion. And so she anoints him with spikenard. It says nard, but that is spikenard.
Okay.
As you'll hear it on anybody's list of essential oils.
Okay.
And spikenard is then, of course, one of the oils I very specifically associate with her. So when I'm doing anointing, I want to hit kind of the root chakra, the root, sacral, the grounded ones, the
Mm-hmm.
physical ones. I want to hit the heart, the emotional, and I want to hit the head, the spiritual. And so most oils might work on one or two of
Mm-hmm.
those areas. I'll usually work with several. But spikenard is one of the ones that works on all of those areas because it comes from the root of a plant, so it helps ground us. It
Yeah.
is green, which is the color
Mm.
of the green healing ray, which is the color of the heart chakra.
Mm-hmm.
And it is connected with this deep ancient spiritual path. So it helps us tune into that, helps
Yeah.
with dreaming, it helps us recollection of dreams, it helps with sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But you will have vivid dreams if you're working with spikenard. So I always temper that when I'm talking to people if they want to use it for sleep, because sometimes having
Uh,
vivid dreams is going to be too much for them. So
right.
I would use an alternative oil depending on their whole story.
Right.
And that's how I work with aromatherapy. It's always very individual.
Sure.
Something like I have lists and little guides and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like this works for this and this works for that. But that's just a jumping off point. You could use
Yeah.
something like lemon, which is an energizer.
Right. Absolutely. Any citrus, for me
Right.
anyway, feels like an energizer. Yeah.
Yes. But it's also an antidepressant and it's also
Mm.
uh, because it comes all of the citruses
Yeah.
are antidepressant. They come from the peel.
Mm-hmm.
So they're good for boundaries. They're good for protection.
Mm,
Somebody might need that. They might need to kind of feel so bad. And
yeah.
they might, and that might be the thing that helps them sleep. It's always very nuanced and always
Yeah.
very individual, although there's patterns. And that's one of the, coming back to the divine feminine, it's recognizing those patterns. So with Mary Magdalene, again, we're talking about an individual relationship where
Right.
whether it's with an oil or with her. That's why
Mm-hmm.
I call her my career counselor, because she helps me understand the mission here, because she was bringing the feminine, and he was too.
Mm-hmm.
He was occupying very feminine energy. He
Mm.
about love and acceptance and nurturing.
Yeah.
And all of those things are very much of the feminine. So he is an example of bringing the feminine into the physical world through a masculine body,
Yeah.
which I always think is very interesting and something I haven't done a lot with, but is
Mm-hmm.
on my very long list of things that I want to
Yeah.
do.
So, can you explain a little bit for someone who never really heard of anointing as far as a practice that we can do now? People may have heard of it as like, like you said, in the Bible or even like in some paranormal groups and stuff like that. But having a practice of anointing personally for yourself, how does that work? And how would one get started in doing a practice of anointing?
So it's all about intention. Like you can, I'll see people, and I know some of this is in video and some of it is not, but people will like, they'll just, what do I need? Put the oil on and be done.
Yeah.
And so the idea is setting intention. What am I wanting to attract and what am I wanting to connect with? Doing it in a peaceful way. You can do it in 30 seconds. It's the intention
Yeah.
that you do, that you stop, you pause, you breathe, and then you intentionally touch yourself or touch another person, if you're what, depending on who you're anointing,
Mm-hmm.
to help them heal, to help them connect with something, to help them be more themselves, to be more centered, to be more grounded. Each oil has a different frequency, has different energy that comes through it. So it
Yeah.
might be, I have 270 oils. And like I said before, like with the jasmines and the cedarwoods, that's another good example,
Yeah.
where there's junipers that are called cedarwood are the masculine. So the red cedarwood, the Texas cedarwood. And then we have feminine cedarwoods, which are true cedarwoods, Himalayan cedarwood and Atlas cedarwood. And Himalayan cedarwood is one of my favorite ones to start people on when I'm doing like just a general anointing
Uh-huh.
group where I'm not with a specific intention, where I'm just talking about oils in general, or maybe there is some sort of little thing. Cedarwood
Mm-hmm.
is always, Himalayan cedarwood is extremely helpful because
Okay.
what it does, it's a heartwood. So
Okay.
it's the
Yep.
wood and it's the heart. And so it helps us center. It helps
Mm.
us feel safe. It helps us feel secure. And we can't release things. We can't do shadow work. We can't do self-acceptance work
Without
if we're
that.
not centered in
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we're always looking for outside things. And not that we need to bump into each other. We need to bump into each other to trigger each other and blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, it all comes down to being centered in ourselves. So we take a deep breath, we set our intention, and then we touch the area of the body. So this one, the Himalayan is about surrendering the head to the heart. So I will have people anoint their temples and anoint their heart. And I might have somebody anoint their base of their spine
Mm-hmm.
with that, but mostly it's about surrendering the head to the heart. So,
Yeah.
and because there's two things that we look at when I'm anointing the head. There's the physical thinking, overthinking, one of those masculine things, because we want to define everything. And yeah, the masculine wants to label everything, and the feminine's like, it just is.
You're
And
right.
so
A little more
we
going with the flow there.
Yes, exactly. And yeah. And then are able to surrender the head to the heart, where we can find peace, we can find calm, and we're not spinning, because cedarwood
Mm-hmm.
is one of these ones that helps with paranoia.
Mm.
So I have I remember one student, I literally used all four cedar woods on her because she was so paranoid
Oh,
in a ceremony. And I
mm,
it helped. And I didn't
nice.
tell her that's why I was using them.
Yeah, because you don't want to make her self-conscious and then be more
Right,
paranoid about
exactly.
it.
I
Yeah.
did. But I focused on that they're protective and centering.
Yeah.
And so, and I'll know things. When
Mm-hmm.
I'm working with oils, it's not necessarily an agenda. It's their guides telling me that they
Right.
need something, showing me something that they might not be ready for.
Right.
But by
Right.
anointing them with the oils, it will help them bring in the energy so they will be ready to deal
Yeah.
with whatever they're dealing with. But yeah, but you can do an extended practice of anointing. I will do an hour class of anointing where we light candles, do some sort of clearing
Mm,
first, take deep breaths. We do guided meditation. I do dance and movement with it. So we're really
nice.
kind of
Yeah.
getting that into
Physical.
the
Yeah.
bottom. But yeah, because it's physical. It's about
Mm-hmm.
integrating the spiritual and the physical. So we
Yeah.
put the oil on, and that's what Mary Magdalene does. She helps us integrate the physical. She's walked both worlds. She
Mm-hmm.
knows how to walk between worlds with beauty and grace. And essential oils and anointing help us do that. And that's one of her teachings. And one of the things I get into, oh, there's like three chapters, three kind of units in the class that I
Mm-hmm.
have, and that's one of them is bridging the gap between the spiritual and the
Yeah.
physical, and how she's an inspiration for that.
Nice.
And so when I do these ceremonies, like I said, it's an extended thing, and we might do one oil, or we might do. I'm going to be doing, speaking of religious figures, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to be doing one very soon with blue chamomile, which represents
Mm-hmm.
the Mother Mary, or I call her the Blue Mary, because it's like it's the unconditional love of the mother, which is the great mother energy. So the great mother, it's a title,
Mm-hmm.
and there's usually some being or several beings that hold that, and the Mother Mary is one of them. And then the other side of it, so it's going to be two edge. It's going to be a container, and then the other oil we're going to be working with is black cardamom, which is about getting into your deep primal self, and that's
Mm,
going to be tuning into the energy of Lilith. We will be working with those two oils for people to get in touch with both the unconditional love of the feminine and with the primal, raw nuance. Like when I talk about that aspect of the feminine, it's about there's 50 different things happening in our environment, and we just absorb them. We don't define them. We don't
mm-hmm.
understand them like on a logical level, but we stand them, feel something in our body. We feel some sort of thing that we have to do something. She felt it, and she left the Garden of Eden. And so we tune into that primal, sometimes rage, desires, sometimes eating habits. It's all in that tuning into that physical, those that nuanced thing that we can't define, but
Yeah.
we know through our bodies.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's going to be the next class, which is going to embody these two figures. Anyway, you
Yeah.
were about to ask a question.
Is there a connection between like Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene? They're not the same figure, they're not the same person, are they? Or what is the connection, if there even is one, or is it just that there's just two Marys?
They were here at the same time. They were working together. They were part of
Okay.
this mission that was to bring in the feminine in a
Okay.
way, which is weird because Christianity became a tool of the
Right.
patriarchy.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so we're reclaiming that
Mm-hmm.
by honoring the feminine of the story, and their roles, which are less defined.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason it sometimes is hard for me to do. At least it was. I'm much better at it now. But why it was very hard for me to do videos and do classes on them, specifically to do a video on it, where I was just talking instead of getting into the body, because it's the feminine, and it occupies a different space than that linear, this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But to me, they're both physical. They're both here being physical. They are both showing love. They are both mothers. And they're both very strong in that. The two Marys, I think there was a third Mary. There are three women. There were three women. I focus on the two, were at the crucifixion.
Okay.
And part of the Magdalene teachings is to witness other people's suffering without flinching.
Mm.
And you can only do that by being so secure in yourself
Yeah.
and being able to show up for a loved one
Yeah.
with unconditional love while they are in their worst moment of their life and not
Mm-hmm.
turn their backs like the apostles did. They
Yeah.
left. And so that is a very similar that part of both of their stories is the same and in a beautiful embodiment of the divine feminine. Again,
Yeah.
one of the units in my course. I did a Magdalene ceremony, so I do kind of focus on her 2 times a year. I focus on her
Okay.
coming up on July 22nd on her feast day, and I focus on her on Easter.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that
So
makes
on,
sense.
yeah. And then so on Good Friday, we had an anointing ceremony in her honor, and we ended up talking a lot about the Mother Mary too. She was very
Yeah.
present at that particular. She usually doesn't every year. Every time I do a Magdalene thing, it's always completely different, other than a few of the specific oils that I work with for her, which are spikenard, myrrh, um, if you've ever, because that's another biblical one,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a big fan of the Gospel according to Andrew Lloyd Webber. It's what I call
Okay.
Jesus Christ Superstar. And there's a line from it, "Myrrh for your hot forehead," and so that's associated with her. I associate
Mm.
nutmeg with her because it's the creation, it's the sacral, it's the
Ah.
rebirth, and also you will see her depicted with a red egg as one of her symbols.
Okay.
And then rose. Rose is
Mm-hmm.
always the feminine.
Yeah.
Uh,
What about rosemary? Rosemary
oh, you picked
oil.
up on it.
Yeah.
Yes, rosemary. So I talk to plants.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of my job.
I
They
love
talk to
it.
me.
I love
We have
it. Yeah.
conversations. And I was sitting with Rosemary once, and she said to me, "I am Rosemary," as in two names,
Yeah.
not one.
Yeah, that's what
And
I was
I
thinking. Like that's
exactly.
so
And
interesting. Yeah.
yes. Yeah. And so it brings in that energy. And what rosemary does, and it is one of the Magdalene oils that I work with,
Mm-hmm.
it puts us on our path. It helps
Yeah.
us understand our next steps, even if we don't know where we're going. It helps us understand,
Love
it keeps
that.
us on our path, and it helps us, and it's about deep remembrance. So a lot of, people who work with essential oils more for physical properties, and I do that too. All of my
Mm-hmm.
oils are highest quality and
Yeah.
can do and will work on the physical, but they'll also be working on the emotional and spiritual bodies too. And so with rosemary, most people kind of understand who work with plants at any level, understand that rosemary helps the memory. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
scientific studies
Oh
about how your
yeah, yeah.
memory increases. Like people know that.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
so I take it to the next level. It's
Mm-hmm.
remembering why we're supposed to be here. It's
Ah,
remembering why we're here, remembering there's a line in the song, remembering why we're here, remembering what we came for.
yeah.
And so it
Love that.
gets into that deep remembrance by connecting us with the Magdalene energy and guiding us into understanding that bridge between the physical and the
Mm-hmm.
spiritual and what that means for us here. So
Yeah.
rosemary is that's another one of my starter oils.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it.
And it's a clearing oil. It's related to sage, so it can
Mm-hmm.
clear us. It's made from flowering tops, so it
Mm-hmm.
reminds us of our wholeness.
Yeah.
And so when I'm working, that's one of the ceremonies that we do in the Magdalene course is with rosemary. I don't use all of the oils in a
Sure.
meditation in the course, but that is one of them.
Before we leave, we want to make sure we talk more. You've mentioned a couple times. Let's talk about your offerings and your course and what's on your website for people who are looking to learn more and what kind of courses or offerings that you have on your website.
Well, right now I only have the one
Okay.
course that is self-directed. I will have classes online and in person that I will offer, but those will be one-time things usually.
Okay.
I do have training. I do have a training coming up, working with essential oils, working with anointing.
Okay.
It's on August 14th. On my previous one, I think it was the July 11th. The people who have registered for it, we've kind of shifted it a month.
Okay.
so far, and that'll be a lot of understanding the plants, understanding our connection with the plants, understanding anointing. And then, but more importantly, the Magdalene class is a self-directed. It's about 2 hours. There's reading materials as well as videos. There's anointing rituals throughout, and that's available. And I will have some sort of discount on it for her feast day.
Oh, nice.
And then there's a kit. I have an oil kit which features all the ones I just said: rosemary, spikenard, nutmeg, a rose hip oil because rose oil is really
Yeah.
expensive. Um, and rose spray and like a rose
Okay.
hydrolyte. It's the water that comes from the steam distillation of essential oils.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's in there. So there's things to tune us into her energy. And then there's a lavender. It's called Highland Lavender 1800. It is at the highest point of these mountains in France.
Mm.
And so after she left Jerusalem, she went to France, and that's why she's so celebrated in France. And when I did my first Magdalene class, I wanted something that connected with her time after the biblical stories, what she did
Yeah.
after, because she was here
Mm-hmm.
to carry on the mission. And she was here with compassion, and she had compassion for all of everyone involved. And she kept going. So I wanted something that connected with France. And being this lavender that grows at the highest level,
Yeah.
um, and it is the most expensive lavender I carry.
When you're talking about expenses, it's important to know where your oils are coming from.
So, how I characterize most essential, and there's definitely different levels. There's
Yeah.
ones that are mass produced, but are
Yeah.
really good, not like, but they're still adjusted because
Yeah.
you'll hear people say they have the same scent this
Mm-hmm.
year as they do 10 years from now. And that doesn't happen in nature.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about wine,
Right.
you think about
Right.
every year, every soil. That's why we have 14 different lavenders.
Yeah.
Uh, because the soil is different, the energy is different.
Yeah.
And we will not have the same scent from year to year because we honor that plant process. So with this particular lavender, they have to drive backwards. They go up these switchback mountains. They're
Wow.
only can harvest them for a couple months of the year. It is a laborious process to get to this most divine lavender. And
Yeah.
there's actually there's three levels of it. There's the 1800, which is for me the Magdalene oil. And then there's a 1600 and a 1400, and they all have a little bit different energy. And so people will be attracted to different ones
Different
sometimes.
ones. Sure.
But
Yeah.
with the Magdalene energy, it's the 1800 for sure.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
that's in the kit, and that's
On your website.
on my website. And the kit isn't too bad because I have most of them are a little bit more affordable ones.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy them separately, obviously.
So go ahead and share your socials and your website, share all that information, and we'll have those links below as well. But go ahead and say them for people who are listening. And
My website is katieshell.com, so it's very
yeah,
easy.
yeah.
Um, and so that's the easiest way to find
And
me.
that's Shell.
Yes, Katieshell, just like a seashell. I'm on Facebook, and
Mm-hmm.
I used to go use the business name Essential Journeying. Now I just go use Katie Shell Intuitive Services. You'll
So
see
much.
Essential Journeying on a lot of my stuff. I'm pulling
Yeah,
away from that because it doesn't flow off the tongue very
yeah,
easily.
yeah,
But
yeah.
that is what it is under on Facebook and Instagram.
Instagram, yeah.
It's Katie Shell Essential Journeying.
Okay.
And YouTube, I think it's just Katie Shell.
I think it is too. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so that one's a little bit easier. And
Okay.
I think I have 3 videos. Um, if you want to put when the YouTube, you can put a link to the um,
Yeah, great idea.
Magdalene videos.
Right. Yeah, I will do
Um,
that. And then also I'll put a link to your first episode on holistic connections. I'll put
yeah,
that under this one. And then on that first one, so that on holistic connections anyway, that was number 38. I will put both of these videos underneath the other one. But underneath this one, I will link your videos to the Mary Magdalene ones
yeah,
that you have as well. Yeah, great
yes,
idea. I'm glad you brought that up.
and I have a playlist that has
Yeah.
all of them in it. So
So I'll do that for sure.
yeah, I
That's a
really
great
appreciate.
idea.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I really appreciate, you do explain things well and you go deep into it. You can't explain these things in just, a 20-minute video or
Yeah.
something. So
Yeah.
it's just a taste and just an introduction, but please
Right.
visit her website, visit the socials and learn more if this interests you at all, and if you've watched to the end, you obviously are interested.
Mhm.
So, so visit all those links that will be in the show notes and the description on YouTube. So, yeah.
Do want to add one more thing,
Okay.
just about my offerings with the
Absolutely.
essential oils. So there's a bunch of kits, there's a bunch of anointing kits, which all have different themes on my website in addition to the Magdalene kit. Um, and I offer free consultations.
Nice.
Well, free like introductory consultations where
Yeah.
we talk for 10 or 15 minutes. You kind of tell me your symptoms, you tell me
Hmm.
what you're looking for. Also, the service
Yeah.
that I charge for, which is an hour-long service where I'm get into channeling mode. I'm intentionally tuning into your guides and
Yeah.
working through your issues to figure out what oils you need. And I offer that
Hmm.
um as well.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you once again
You're
for
welcome.
being my
Thank you.
guest. I am so honored to, to share this information with listeners. And as always, I mean, I've learned something and I really am appreciative of that. So thank you once again.
And I appreciate all of this. So thank you very much.